see who's here for us each meeting.
With the clerk to do the roll call?
If you don't mind, please.
I don't mind. I don't know if I'll do it as fast as the clerk at City Hall though.
That's quite all right.
Councilor Jacutis?
Present.
Betty Gonzalez? Carly McLean is on her way. Robert Mazzone?
Here.
Charlie Mitchell?
Yep.
Arthur Akers?
Here.
Marlene Gassietti?
Yep.
Manette is absent. She called, or I spoke with her. Pam, Joan is absent. Joseph Bryson, Lester McLean.
Here.
Thank you, Lester.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
I have a list here of holdovers for the Lynn Council On Aging Board. There's a bunch of names on there I've never seen before. So, it's my understanding of two things. That while we were conducting business previous to which, all these names were part of the board and should be considered as what we missed in some kind of way. And so they're listed as holdovers from the city office. So that means that currently, this board has more than 11 members based on this list. And as such, our quorum should be set as what the board reflects, not what the mayor did. So we may or may not have a quorum based on this list here. So we have 15 members, more than 15 members.
We have one 15 members. They've been replaced. There were 8 new appointments in January.
So when were they replaced?
Same.
Same.
That's a two. When were they replaced?
These were appointed in January. There are 8 new members that received letters from the mayor and confirmed by the council. Not every member that's ever been appointed to the Council On Aging remains a member of the Council On Aging. The holdovers have now been filled with 8 new members.
But previous to which the holdovers were part of the previous administration.
As far as what happened in the past, as I indicated in an email, this board did not follow Robert's rules of procedure. It did not follow the open meeting laws. So, with respect to notices of meetings and file the minutes with the clerk's office. So this board is including a new day for this board that now come in compliance with the law that had been ignored for many years.
I understand, but you, in correspondence, you said that my presidency, we are elected by the board, was another thing that's never existed.
Correct. The city ordinance, the mayor selects the chairperson. This board does not select the chairperson. So that is the past, We're moving forward now and trying to comply with the law. And the law states that the mayor selects the chairperson. The mayor has selected the chairperson of this board. The bylaws of this city state that a vice chairman is selected by this board, which I understand that's in the process of happening, or is going to happen, and that this board selects the clerk, which my understanding is this process is happening or is happening. Only the mayor can select the chairperson pursuant to the ordinance passed by the city council back in 1960. This board doesn't have the legal authority to select the chairperson. So we're complying with the law now for the first time in my understanding.
I want to get this clear, because you're saying since 2000, none of the presidents that were elected, there were no.
It's difficult to figure out exactly what has happened with this Council On Aging because they have not filed the minutes with the city clerk's office as required by law.
This gentleman's been here since the Clancy era. This board has elected each and every president since he's been there. So what happens to everything they passed is no good, it doesn't count.
What I'm saying is we're trying to follow the law.
I understand.
And that's what we're doing now. That's why I've been asked to come to these meetings to try to give some guidance from a legal perspective so that we do things right. Apparently that has not happened in all respects in the past. So we do have a lawful chairperson at this time.
I'm not debating it. What I'm trying to figure out, on this list here, you have Arthur Akers, Pearl Brown, who lives in North Carolina, what's his name? Albert DiVizio, Pam Edwards, Dan Hammond, who has been a part of the board.
I provided you a list of every person that's been appointed to this board at any time, I believe since 1986. So that's the list we're working on. That really is irrelevant to what we're here today, because we have new members. I believe there are 2 holdovers that may be reappointed. One of those holdovers is here today. And the mayor's office has indicated that if desired to remain on, he would appoint. Another holdover did not appear. They received notice. So in all likelihood, the mayor will probably choose to replace that. So you'll have a full complement of members moving forward.
All right, what I'd like to do is just start the agenda that we have, start the meeting, and we can bring those up under other business towards the end.
Sure.
Okay, so right now we have to view and vote on the bylaws update. Now, did anyone have a copy of one?
I brought copies, the original and color-coded with the proposed changes. The first will be the original. If you don't have a copy, if you do have a copy, just pass it and I'll keep it. If the second one going around is marked up with red with the proposed changes, so that you can look at it.
This is the original?
Yeah.
I didn't look at it.
Do they look different?
Yeah, maybe this is so old.
No.
And this is
It's
a new
yeah,
one.
yeah, we get used to that.
Lady Chairman, excuse me, there's nothing about the minutes of the former meeting being approved.
Because we didn't have a quorum on the last meeting.
But were the meeting minutes for the prior, were they approved? Because they couldn't be approved if we didn't have a
I
quorum.
will have it for the next meeting by state law, and 90 days from the date of the meeting, in order to
Okay.
put those minutes.
I'm just used to seeing that like at the top of the agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I haven't needed to be just be a perfect kid. I have the minutes of the meeting, but I don't know all the names, so I have to plug in the names with the names of the members, so that the minutes will accurately reflect who said what.
Yeah.
I didn't know all the individual ones.
Do we have any more? We need 2, right? Pam, I think we need 2 more.
Well, here, Charlie, you have this one, and Ken, since you're not a voting member, yeah,
Who needs them? We're all set now.
I'll take that.
That shows. So I was saying, I call for any yours.
So I want to go
Everybody okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
the bylaws.
This is the one.
yeah.
Madam Chair, would it be helpful since I typed it?
I was going to
If
say,
you would
I
like-
was going to say copy, but she's not.
It's just, yeah, I used a Word format that can be a little confusing, even for me. So the bylaws committee met as directed by the board at the last meeting. Those present at the meeting just basically tried to upgrade the bylaws to reflect the board's mission and the actual duties and activities of the board. So you'll see we changed the basic purpose of the council. It's set to assist Greater Lynn Senior Services, and the actual basic purpose is, as in A, underlined in red, the Lynn Council on Aging is established for the purpose of coordinating and to carry out the programs designed to meet the problems of the aging in coordination with the programs of the Council on Aging, that's a misspelling, I'll fix it, of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then B, we're going to provide appropriate services for the senior population in Lynn. C, to educate the community in Lynn. And then all of the letters, went on and just changed to cooperate to collaborate, just to, felt that it was more modern lingo. And then the F is just a change because we reestablished the subtext of each one. The next page, that's just a basic location change because we're going to change from 8 Silsby Street to Lynn City Hall in coordination with the rest of the boards of the city. Added in per city ordinance to copy some of the other bylaws throughout the city and other ones that we looked at. The bylaws committee would like to recommend that the board has a treasurer, appoint a treasurer from the board itself to oversee the money of the Council on Aging / Senior Center. Next page. We just added in with the duties of the officers, if we are to adopt a treasurer's position, just the duties of the treasurer, and I just took that from other bylaws that I had researched when I was doing the markups. The next page is the bylaws have said that we meet on the 3rd Wednesday, which all of us know it's the 4th Wednesday. And another proposal by the bylaws committee is instead of the meeting, the old bylaws said we made it 1:30, so we would have to change that anyway. And the bylaws committee would like to suggest we change that to a 9:30 start. That is because several of us on the board have to work and the mid of the day, but that doesn't mean that those that want to have lunch couldn't have lunch afterwards together. And Councilor Jakutis has even, and some occasions throughout the year, maybe at the old time. Special meetings may be called by the chair, that wouldn't change. The annual meeting of the council shall be held on the 4th Wednesday of October for the purpose of electing officers. That is just to be in alignment with our regular meeting. The month hasn't changed. All voting rights shall be vested within the members. A quorum. This is probably where we're going to have some discussion with legal. The presence of a simple majority of the current membership present at the meeting shall be sufficient to constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. Votes shall be cast only by members. So I think that between us and legal, I know that I have a difference of opinion in legal than a simple majority. So I think that we would have to discuss that. But that is just present at the meeting. That's basically who votes, and then we would have to discuss what a quorum is in addition.
Excuse me, do we use, or do we reference Robert's Rules of Order anywhere in these bylaws? Because that helps typically that helps to lay out how you determine quorum.
It should be in the first part. Huh?
Okay, it's something I think it might answer some of the questions that we might have.
Yeah.
Forming a quorum.
Yes, we can definitely add that. Okay, the other, then we're on the 1st Wednesday. So then we're at regular attendance is expected of all members. In the event of absence of any member, 3 consecutive meetings, except for health extenuating circumstances. Those must be reported to the chair according to the bylaws. In the event the consecutive absent member does not respond to 2 contacts from the board clerk, the member will be considered resigned and the position will be filled by the mayor. This also probably needs discussion. This is what the bylaws committee wrote up. The legal team feels that it might be in contradiction with the city ordinance.
City charter talks about how the mayor can remove someone, which would require a meeting with the hearing for the city council. Certainly the board can recommend that the mayor remove someone with, after a certain number of mismeetings. But the mayor would be the person responsible to make the removal, and that person being removed has an opportunity for a full hearing before the council.
Okay. Maybe we can, the member will be considered resigned, put the member can be asked to resign by the mayor,
Or refer to the mayor for,
the board can request, the mayor, the board can request according to the city charter. And then this is just special meetings outside the regular monthly meeting may be called by the chair. And that's in case something has to be voted on or an issue arises or an event that we need to have special meeting on.
Excuse me, do you make any reference to the open meeting law? Because that affects special meetings as it does.
Oh, we could say per the open meeting law?
Yeah, in accordance with the requirements of. Jim, what's the statute, open meeting?
I don't know off the top of my head, but.
Okay, I thought I had a MGL number.
Oh, it really does, yes.
The clerk, her name just went out of my head. Janet sent me that about whenever I asked for the meeting thing
Okay, that's
to
great.
post this job. So
You got it covered.
yeah, I'll put that in there. Yeah. So then the council shall have at least the following committees named by the chair. The nominating committee. So one thing that we feel has kind of is confusing to everybody, including me. There is a nominating committee for the officers of this board, or at least that's how it's always been. And then there's also the nominating committee that appoints people to the Greater Lynn Senior Service Board. So we were trying to, we want to ask people, how to make that clear. Do we want to put point blank the nominating committee for the Lynn Council on Aging? And then B, the nominating committee for GLIS? Goes back to, because the nominating, you're saying the mayor nominates the chair, but we then have our clerk, secretary, treasurer, right? So, do we want the nominating committee to do both, I guess?
Yes, and that's really up to the board's discretion whether they want two separate nominating committees or one nominating committee. I do think it's worth discussing the number of appointments you have because there's some contradiction there.
Yeah.
Might be a lot of confusion. But this is something that's really up to the board, what they feel comfortable, what they think is most effective.
All right. Any input?
Could people actually be allowed to place themselves in nomination for a position if they, if they were passed over? And then the board could decide whether or not they wanted that to be approved? Is that allowed?
The nominating committee could nominate themselves, or if there was something, if the board felt uncomfortable with that the nominating committee just might end up nominating themselves, there could be a rule or regulation that states that the nominating committee is prohibited from nominating itself. But again, this is something that would either be in the purview of what you think is most effective and what's the best way to go.
I don't, some boards I've been on, that's allowed, others not, so I don't remember whether they're admissible or not, though.
Well, you really don't want somebody nominating themselves, do you?
Or a volunteer, I mean.
Volunteer, okay.
Ask for volunteers before you actually fill out the complement of, but then everybody should be voted on by the board. I guess it's really kind of moot. If people volunteer, then they probably should be voted on as well by the general,
I say, to my opinion, is being voted by the board. What's anybody else's opinion?
Well, if the nominating committee doesn't put something in contention, I'm just trying to think of whether or not it's a way for somebody to be considered. That's all.
Well, I think that if, my opinion is, unless someone says different, I think that we could put in there that the nominating committee shall submit a list of officers for the council, period, right? And then B, the nominating committee shall submit a list, and we could put in there, like you said, Bob, this does not, I don't know the word to use, disregard, this does not prohibit a person of the nominating committee to serve.
One thing I wanted to recommend, I thought about this, I don't think I could sleep one night, and was could the nominating committee develop a list of those positions that were available and have the membership review them and put their names next to ones that they would like to be considered for. And then that way everybody understands what the lay of the land is and can see when they look at the job descriptions as whether or not they want to do that. I'm not sure if there's I don't think it's going to be contrary to any rules. It's just something that kind of, because the nominating committee has to come up with names. I think it would be better if you had people who are expressing interest in certain positions in advance. But that's, I don't know what do the folks think about that?
I think that as a committee, we could go ahead and choose that process. But I think as far as the bylaws go, we should just make it clear the nominating committee shall submit a list of officers for the council.
Right, understood.
This does not prohibit the nominating committee from serving, and the same thing, the nominating committee will put a list of however many we all decide that is, 5, 8, whatever it is, to the Greater Lynn Senior Services Board. This does not prohibit the nominating committee from serving.
Right. We have
Make it simple.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You could have 3 different positions that you can actually be a part of. You could be on the list board, you could be on the nominating committee, you could be an officer. So, that's what I'm saying is some people don't want to tackle that. I think it's good to know in advance where people's interests are and what they want to commit to.
I think the majority is, don't pick me. That's the majority of people say, don't pick me. Okay, so I guess we go back to now that we have the language down, how many nominees to Greater Lynn Senior Services? I have the Greater Lynn Senior Services bylaws with me, as well as ours. Forgive me, I haven't put that in my long. In your discussion with Gliss's attorney, what is their number they're spouting?
5.
And we say 8.
Their bylaws were controlled. This committee could not require them to take 8. That would be something that would require negotiation between this board to council or this board with Gliss. My understanding also, which is a little unique, and I certainly recommend this be changed, is that the Gliss bylaws said you submit a list of names and they get to pick which one of the names from that list, which I think takes away a great deal of power from this board, because you don't have the final say of who you want to serve on the Gliss board. And that would be certainly something I would recommend approaching Gliss to have straightened out. You lose a lot of power by submitting 8 names and making it pick the 5 that they want to serve.
Well, can't that be in the lease agreement?
Part of the lease agreement, it can be part of the memorandum of understanding. I think the current memorandum of understanding needs to be changed for many reasons. The amount of square footage that you're supposed to have, I don't believe it accurately reflects what you have now. So a number of things that should be addressed in that memorandum of understanding. And I do not believe that this board should not have a say on who their representatives are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so.
And just for, I do have a meeting with Gliss attorneys a week from Friday to start discussing this, and I can report back to some of these issues.
Will the chair be present at that meeting?
Certainly, it would be anyone would.
When is it?
Friday at, I believe 9:30. Yes. This is more of a fact-finding issue meeting. We're running the parties. So I don't have the authority to bind this committee. I can come back and report what is spoken about, what is recommended, but ultimately be up to this committee to accept or reject.
Yes.
Are all members of the board up to attend?
I would not recommend that this first initial meeting, that all members would, and then if all members were there, there would have to be an open public meeting. The public would have to be invited.
So probably at least one more person, because you don't want to be the one person that goes, we'll see the people that are telling you otherwise, right?
I think that's
Right, yeah.
If it's okay with the board, I would love to. Is there no objection?
Yeah, I'm not available. I cannot.
Jim, I think also check the time on that. I thought it was 9.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. We can find out for you.
I think it is kind of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to suggest to the board, if it's okay, that we go ahead and adopt the language to make it simple, but the number, we will, as we get the memorandum of understanding and the lease agreement settled, before we adopt that. Okay. Bylaw committee, we are already working, right? We got it going. There is a question on the newsletter committee. Part of the money that the city gives to the COA through GLIS, it appears that there's a check in the budget. The budget guy. Somehow or another, and I think it's just an oversight, I think it's like $400 or something a month. So that is, I think, part of the money that GLIS says that they use part of that budget, but then it's also part of the COA budget. So that should also be looked at whenever doing the lease agreement, please.
I'm not sure what the $400 a month.
I believe it's $400 a month. It's both on the COA budget as an expense to the COA budget, but then also it's part of like what GLIS shows the city that they use for the 178 that the city gives them. I believe, I think it's an oversight, but whenever you're core COA, $400 could be a lot. Yeah.
178 is from the city, not from the COA.
The 178,000 is funds that come into the city from the state to operate the senior center and the COA. 178,000.
We give it to who?
I think it's actually it's up $173,832 to be exact.
Okay.
We give it to somebody or?
The city, the state comes to the city and then the city disperses it to GLIS, and that is supposed to pay for our lease and some salaries.
So if it's paying for the lease and salaries come from the city, now why we have to redo the lease? It's not going to CO.
Right. And that's going to be part of the memorandum agreement. I guess while we were on the committees of the COA and the newsletter committee came up, I just wanted to make a note to check that.
Also, I want to play with things. But if it's coming from the state, is it designated to the COA and then to GLIS, or is it designated to GLIS automatically?
Well, it's a little bit off the agenda, but I can tell you from my work at Mass Senior Action is that there are line items in the elder affair budget, and those line items are directly for the operation of the COA, which is the senior center.
No. Senior center is not the COA.
Well, I know that is what we have been told by the CEO of GLIS, but that is not how the state budget looks at it. So
the state sends it to the COA.
Yes.
It's us.
Yes.
Not this.
Well, to the COA, yeah.
So it's not the city like you said earlier, so it's different.
Well, I should say, I misunderstood. It comes to every city in the state. Every city in the state, it goes to the city and the state, and then that money is to run the COA. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
But that money pays for the building, the rental.
In every city.
Yes.
Yeah, in every city, it pays for the electricity, the whatever. you know, whatever the senior center needs to run. Yeah. Yes.
There is, just to point out, around the dollars to support the COA function, there is just under $1,000 a year budgeted for board expenses. So that is coming out of those funds to support board expenses. Right now, it's in the senior center budget, since Bliss has in the past incurred those board expenses. As we negotiate an arrangement going forward, it should be determined whether that money actually belongs in the senior center budget or whether it belongs in a separate Council on Aging budget to support the activities of the board.
Good. Duly noted. Thank you. All right, and then the rest is pretty simple. It's amendments from previous bylaw updates where they took out the treasurer. We're going to reinstate. If folks agree, I think any acting board should have a treasurer oversight, right? And the rest we already took care of, the regular meetings in another. I don't know about under officers. Mr. Lamana, the chair may not be elected for more than 2 consecutive terms as voted by the Lynn Council on Aging. That's an amendment though to the thing.
There is no limit to the ordinance creating this board, so you'll be, this board can't put further limitations such as that. So if the mayor chose to have a chairperson for 4 terms, unless the ordinance is changed, that would be law. But as far as the other officers, no, they could be term limits, and it's not what folks believe is in the best interest of the Council on Aging.
Because this says the chair may not be elected for more than 2 consecutive terms that is voted on by the Lynn Council on Aging board. So it's basically voted on the mayor is the one that appoints the person. So this has to be changed. This is from 2000.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to, Lady Chair, excuse me. I wanted to mention 2 things. The treasurer position has to, I think, in addition to duties, also has to have limits. Because some treasurers can spend a small amount of money without board action. They're given an opportunity. They're told what the threshold is. And it's better because you're not dealing with minutia when you're on the board. And the other thing I had to ask was, typically adoption of bylaws occurs at an annual meeting. That's what I'm familiar with. I'm not sure if any of you all have had that some experience or if you've never heard of that before. But that's one of the things you do at the annual meeting if you have an adjustment to your to bylaws. But I think, I'm not sure if that's cast in stone or if it's just controlled by your bylaws. Typically, bylaws mention when the annual meeting is going to occur. I'm not sure, if, once again, if anybody's had an experience with that. Feedback? None?
It's absolutely something typical of a nonprofit, that the bylaws are only touched at the annual meeting, given that everyone will be present to be able to discuss. This is a little different, as it's a city agency. City Council just changed their rules and regulations and procedures probably 2-3 months ago. Nothing that stated it had to happen on the first meeting of a year after inauguration. So, but I think typically you're absolutely correct.
An election also occur at the annual meeting also. But I'm only familiar from I worked in municipal law. I ran 2 housing authorities, and that's what we did.
Well, I think this is just a tad different just because things were not done properly, and there are some things that we need to address because of the relationship between the COA and Bliss. And so that's why I think that we can do this, and then once we move forward, we can look at that annual meeting.
I think it's going to be an evolution. You know, I know that everybody wants to get everything done as quickly as possible, but there are some things that might take a little bit more time to work out to the, we don't have any gears ending up falling out of the transmission.
I I've made point of the things brought up, and I can correct that, and then send this out to everyone, and then we can review at the May meeting.
How's that sound, Kendra?
Just note though that we will just be approving what we can approve until the lease agreement is completed.
That sounds fine.
Do we have to vote on that, Jim? Should we take a vote on that, or just by?
I think it'd be, and that says it'd be tabled till May, correct?
Yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna table it. Do we have
That requires a motion.
a motion
To table. Second.
Okay.
Okay. So we have to untable it in May. The rest of the story. Great, thank you. So why we even go?
On to the next one, nomination of board officers, vice president, clerk, / secretary, and treasurer. So,
Just on the treasurer, because we tabled the bylaws, we don't have a treasurer yet until May.
but we can do the vice president, clerk, secretary. And we know clerk, secretary is basically going to be,
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Pam Edwards for the clerk position on the Council on Aging.
Second.
We could do a voice vote. All in favor?
We're gonna, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, guys, have it. Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks. Do we have to ask if there's any more nominations?
Yeah, we do have.
I mean, for,
And. The vote is not on that nominated. I love everyone turns their heads.
Manette is, is and has been the vice president. She did share with me that she is thinking of not participating in the board, no longer serving. So I'm not.
Are you leaving it open until the next meeting, or do we have to have that now?
How about if I serve for the interim clerk until we have the bylaws? How about that? And then we'll just do all nominations together once the bylaws is adopted. And I'll be the interim clerk.
Do you want to do that?
Do we need to remove that? Amend that.
So what we motion to table Pam Edwards to be temporary clerk until next meeting when the nominations continue in more formal fashion.
Second. I guess that's my job. I'll be the second. I'll be the second person.
All right, next one is monthly meetings tonight. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, that's a conflict where if eventually when the people are chosen for the GLIS meeting, because our GLIS meetings have been moved to Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday at 8:15. Typically they last 2 hours or more. So that's going to cause a problem. So if this is an important day, could it be moved back to 10:30? I think then that would mesh because we're not too far from GLIS. I just walked over here.
Do you think maybe 10 o'clock?
What time? I was gonna, do we have to have it on the fourth Wednesday? If GLIS
We
took our day.
just moved to the fourth Wednesday.
Right, if they took our day,
Not because we're
maybe we
trying to
could
make
take
trouble.
their day.
We weren't trying to make trouble.
I'd like to,
This board, you can pick whatever day is convenient for you. I encourage
I
that.
mean, you're a worker. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, my schedule is different all the time.
You need
But I,
11:30?
but I have
Yeah,
definitely, penciled in this one,
Yeah,
that my supervisor knows that.
yeah.
It might be fine for me to change.
What's the driving force for the change, so that we maybe need to address that directly?
Just work schedule.
Oh, okay. More than one person? Okay.
Yeah. I know, there's several of us that work, it's just that, it's kind of like right in the middle of the day, where like if you had it in the morning, I could still get work done in the afternoon.
What works for you, man?
Either morning or afternoon, it doesn't matter. If I had it in the morning at 9:30 or in the evening.
Want to try for 10:30 now? And what's everyone's opinion on it?
All I can say was 10:30 probably would not interfere with the members of this board that also will eventually sit on the GLIS board.
What about anyone else sitting on, well, let's say that's, anybody have a conflict with that?
No, that would probably be all right for me too, because it's not that much of a difference in the time, so I'd probably be okay with that.
Yeah, I think if that's doable. I mean, I could leave with 5 minutes to go if I had to, but that's still not a problem.
Yeah.
If I'm still on the GLIS board.
Do we have a motion to change the meetings?
So moved.
And are these meetings, I have a question, are these meetings, is there a time limit on them?
Well, I'm hoping, once we get everything resolved with the bylaws, I'm hoping they're gonna be down to a half-hour meeting, depending on what the agenda is. Because most meetings, you're in and out within 45 minutes. Usually, I've never been on board that these meetings take this long.
Yeah, okay, so it'd be like 10:30, 11:30 maybe, something like that.
No more than an hour.
Okay.
Like I said, depending on what the agenda is, if there's something very important that's going to take time, yeah, the meeting's probably going to go over, but
Okay.
for the most part,
Okay.
Well, just for, next meeting is May 22nd at 10:30 a.m. by work, just so you can think ahead.
Lady Chairman, I made a motion on the floor, I don't know if it was seconded, to move the time to 10:30. Okay, now let's move to second. Aye.
oh, okay. I said that.
Just one more, on the next meeting in May, I won't be able to be here at our annual meeting. We're 3 days down the Cape and I can't.
Remove the time? Can't be-
No, I'm going to the Cape.
Oh, that's much
I'm
better.
going to Ocean Edge.
I just want to move this along, so I know Arthur has to leave. I have a funeral I have to get to soon too, so let's, next on the agenda is the lease payment of Bliss.
That's really the beginning of the process for 1 week from Friday. This is talking about the existing lease and moving forward. And I think the next two things on the agenda really go hand in hand. I can report as far as the Council on Aging requisition. The mayor's offices have given the green light to fund a Council on Aging position. And that'll, I'm sure, be part of the discussions that we'll undertake next Friday. So as far as I'm the only board in the North Shore that split services that does not have an individual point person that answers to you folks. I think that it seems logical that this board should have a point person that is their person, as opposed to that is working for a CLIS who, like I've been working for the landlord, so to speak. That has been, that decision has been made by the mayor and will be reflected in the fiscal 2020 budget in one manner or another.
So basically, probably the May meeting, we will have more answers on this.
On both of those issues, and at least probably would take up some work. We will have this meeting Friday, but eventually it's going to come before this board. It'll go before the GLIS board because any changes in the lease will require their approval. So hopefully we can come to a mutually satisfactory arrangement. That's a win-win for everybody. That's certainly the goal, is for a win-win for the seniors.
This COA director is going to come from the city budget or from the council?
Those are details that have to be worked out. There's a commitment that money will be found for this position.
Will it be a public listing or what's the process? position.
We'd have to need some type of public posting, absolutely.
And would we be hiring that person? So we would screen resumes and hire that person? If you were looking for us, or?
That'll have to be working with you. I'll have to look at other cities in town, to see if the Council on Aging makes that hiring decision or the mayor makes that hiring decision. I am not aware of any other board in the city that selects their, has hiring decision, except the city clerk's is chosen by the council. And I don't know of any other board that has a hiring authority, but I'll certainly look and see what PD and Schwab and other cities in town do as far as what the norm is as far as, and I'm certain the mayor would want your input.
Yeah, my experience.
Recommendation, but it is going to be a position that will have benefits and pensions, and it'll have, it'll be a full city employee. It is a commitment of significant funds when you add in the benefits and the like. But the mayor feels this is important enough that it needs to be done moving forward.
So that will be a discussion, maybe once we go to the meeting, the week from tomorrow, we'll come back to the meeting with what we found out working with this lawyers.
It's going to be longer than an hour meeting, yeah.
Oh, that will be.
The May meeting.
Oh, the May meeting.
Oh, yeah. All right.
It's going to be a little while. The next few meetings I think are going to be a little while until we actually get everything going this year. Regular business.
I just have a couple things that I would like to share with the board, as the board. So I just wanted to remind those, especially the new ones, that this process started, it'll be 3 years this May. And what occurred was a senior at the senior center was harassed and had unwanted touching by a CEO of Gliss. And when that person who tried 3 times to, it's going to be recorded, Paul can read it right on the TV, when that person could not get him to stop, went to Stacy Minchello, the director. And at that time, Stacy started being harassed. And it has went on continually. That is whenever the board was told that it had to cut its budget, and then it continued, and then we were told that we no longer had a COA director. And I think that if the city is fearful that for some reason that Paul Crowley will not allow us to have space for the senior center, those of us who care about the senior center, and I'm sure it's everybody here at this table, including Marilyn, we will make sure the seniors get their services. We already have a plan B. We already know where we can take the services out into the city. We do not need that place where harassment is okay.
As your attorney, I would always advise you to use the word allegedly before you make any...
No, I've got a letter where he said it, yeah. So, what I would like to say is that I would really recommend that the city, and as a taxpayer, not just a board member, that we either say this is what we're going to pay for rent, and this is the rules, and if that is not accepted, then we walk away. Because 3 years is a long time to have someone who has been as dedicated to this city and the seniors of this city to continue to have to live under that bubble. So I guess my recommendation is that if this isn't done by the May 22nd meeting, then let's not have any relationship with Greater Lynn Senior Services other than what is, required, that they're required to do under their funding that they get from the state.
I would like to comment on this when you have a chance.
Just say they did something like this. And I understand where everyone's coming from. I wasn't around when all this happened, but do you have to sign a contract for at least whoever you're looking at?
There's already venues that will welcome. the activities there.
This would go through the city, so they would have to, the lease would have to be approved, not through just this board, would they have to go through the mayor's office and the attorney?
They're willing to have the space for free. There is no lease. The buildings, the locations are already willing and able.
Require mayoral approval.
Yeah.
Certainly, recommendation is made, that's certainly appropriate, but it's
All I'm saying is that if we do not get a decent lease agreement with Greater Lynn Senior Services, we have the ability to walk away. The seniors are not going to go without.
I don't know how we would have a budget to hire a number of people, those things we could work out.
You have the people are city employees. It's the COA budget. You're already paying for them.
They're not city employees.
No, but you have the money. It's already in, it's the COA budget.
$172,000 to provide all the services that we have. And I'm certainly something that this company may have considered. I don't know if $172,000 making people city employees with pensions.
Without the
insurance, that would get you more than 2 bodies, to be honest with you.
Without the overhead, we would be fine.
I don't think you get more than 2.5 bodies if they have occasionally sick time. I don't know how you...
Well, you may not need more people whenever they're not being harassed every day and they can do their job.
Well, certainly a recommendation that could be made. I can not conceivable as your attorney. I don't know how 2.5 people could provide all the same services if $173,000. All the benefits that all city employees get.
Well, I guess that you've never been in a job where you get harassed every day and you have to be in meetings and get yelled at. Whenever you're not in those meetings, you can do your work that you were hired to do.
So remember the would have been done, now we made a decision as far as...
As I stated, if we do not get a decent lease with them, do not be afraid to walk away. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
That's
certainly related to the mayor, you can see it on television as well.
Yeah.
What's next?
I was on the board when this occurred, and this might be a different case, but I remember reading a letter from somebody, and it was anonymous.
No, totally different case, Bob.
Okay.
It's totally different. That was never followed up by this board, the anonymous letter.
I mean, because you couldn't
No,
do that.
it was one sign.
Okay, well then I don't recall that going to the board.
Yeah, mine is just brief. I mean, as you know, I do the trainings for sexual harassment in the city of Lynn and for various agencies around. And I vaguely remember at a meeting that I went to, some of the staff was saying that they were doing some kind of an online training. If that is indeed accurate, I would say that we, as a funding authority, should say that is absolutely inadequate. There needs to be a paid professional that comes in, not necessarily volunteering their services, though I would be happy to help. You need to have a full-on sexual harassment, workplace bullying, discrimination training. Every agency of the city has it anyway.
I think that's a fair inclusion into the understanding,
I
absolutely.
mean, we, as the city, are also on the hook for any of our, contractors or agencies that work for us. Like, this is really important.
Do we have a lease agreement with Bliss today?
Yes, we do.
We have copies of the lease agreement.
I have a copy of the lot on it.
Can we get copies of this agreement?
I can certainly scan that and details on the board.
When was it executed?
I have to look at that. There's certain things we're looking at in advance of the next Friday meeting because it's moving forward and it needs to be changed. I think everybody recognizes that the changes need to be made. I know Bliss, speaking with their council, recognizes changes need to be made.
Was that lease agreement signed by someone representing the council?
I don't have it in front of me. I'll have to take a look and I'll certainly have that answer. But well before Friday, I'll probably be able to scan it to you today.
Great.
If probably just to prepare for that meeting, the three of you guys should sit down and read over those terms and then be on the same page. You don't want to go in as
The city's supposed to be at the meeting as well.
you know,
Yep.
whether it's four of you or whatever, but like, absolutely.
I don't talk about the thing, I talk about the
Okay. What about this?
No, this
Let's
is
still off the subject for a minute or something.
now, this vision sent me 11 does not include this gentleman, Chuck. I mean, why is that?
city clerk's office is still trying to recreate who was on that board. It looks like, Mr. McLean,
He's there.
he is a holdover.
Charlie Mitchell's not on this list.
I know,
Not on this list, I got it yesterday.
Those are the most recent,
So this is the most insurance probably got in the legal department. Obviously, they're not going by this list. Okay, obviously, they're not
Mr.
going by
McLean and Mr. Lester received notices for this hearing. Those are the 11 most recent appointments to this board.
this list was sent to me yesterday. You don't have his name on the list.
His name will be on the list. He's either going to be reappointed by the mayor or not appointed. But the presence here today, the mayor was looking to see if they were going to appear today before they reappointed. They reached out, I believe, for an interview, and that did not happen. Now that there's obviously an interest for you being here.
What is the language that the mayor has that says he hires or appoints the chairperson? What if you read language to us?
I provided you the ordinance from 1967.
I won't. Can you read it? Some of us don't have that.
I can understand it. I didn't bring it to you. It's just very straightforward. I've sent it to you multiple times.
Does it say shall? Does it say may? Does it say will?
The mayor shall appoint a chairperson from time to time. The mayor is the appointing authority. This is basically a law.
It says may.
Something I need to.
Does it say may? Does it say shall?
I can send it to you. The mayor is the appointing authority.
Okay. Now,
Please exercise that.
due process for removal of holdovers. So people on this list never got a letter saying they were holdovers, they have an opportunity to come before the mayor.
They do not. There's
So
no due process right to an unpaid board. That's federal law.
I thought it said the mayor appoints them, why here?
There's no due process right. The mayor could choose not to reappoint anyone to any board or not.
I understand that. But these people are holdovers that the mayor did not act upon to remove based on the absence.
There's no removal process to a holdover.
So when Pearl Brown's been in North Carolina for 3 years, when did the mayor receive notice that she was not longer actively participating in the board?
I do not.
Okay. The mayor appoints the board.
And has appointed 9 of them as straight.
The mayor appoints the chairperson.
For the ordinance.
The mayor and the city council appoints us, the council agent board.
City council confirms.
So who is charged with notice of the status of the members of the board? If you appoint and remove, if the city council confirms and the mayor removes, shouldn't the mayor and the city council be aware who's on the actual board since we're giving out millions of dollars to this?
Mayor and council know 9 members that have been recently appointed.
These people have been there since 2000.
I gave you a list of people from 1986. I gave you all inclusive.
So they were still part of, so when I was a legislative president, I had to count those people as part of our board. That's his letter, right?
Till they were removed, there's only one way to remove someone. It's a let for certain, pursuant to section 25 of the city charter.
How is
The
that?
mayor sends a letter saying, I hereby remove you. If the person wants to contest that, there's a full hearing before the city council. This board cannot vote to remove someone on their own.
I understand it. I understand that part of it. So the mayor never sought fit to the benefit of this board to send a letter to remove Pearl Brown, to remove Dan Cannon, to remove Frank Marshall's in the nursing home, to remove this person Victoria. So what time?
You know, remove this very because they were replaced.
They were replaced. You know, people that month, but 3 months ago they were still part of the board, which we had no notice of. The city had notice of it.
The city didn't have any notice of anything because nothing was filed with the clerk's office. The last year, we've been looking to try to straighten this out. I think we're making a great deal of progress in the last 3 meetings.
That was my thing, was that I would be post office, at least people were not showing up at meetings.
The clerk,
So if it wasn't filed, the mayor's office did not.
the clerk submitted to the web and by writing members of the board. The list that the mayor did submitted to the clerk submitted to me and other people, and these people's names weren't on it.
I don't know what the past has to do with it, so moving forward in the state. Nobody knew what this committee did because they had a meeting outside of City Hall, and no minutes were filed with the clerk's office, and no agendas were posted in the city clerk's office. And this is somewhat of a mystery board, and that's why we're here.
But you said that my presidency, which I was elected according to the bylaws, said that since 2007, the president of this board, according to our bylaws, was elected by this body. And now you're saying that never occurred?
This board cannot, through its bylaws, change the charter of city.
I understand that.
You can't give yourself more power than the Constitution.
Did you as legal counsel for us, work for us, right? I'm not working somebody. You work for us. So did you ever give us a copy of the ordinance?
I think you should copy of the ordinance multiple times.
Within the last month?
Yes.
Okay. Since 2011, did you give anybody from the legal counsel a copy of the ordinance, a copy of the charter, a copy of the bylaws? So we're not
interested in we know when the meetings were happening because they were compliant with the open meeting law.
That's why I understand that, but you're still saying that Arthur Akers was never, and Arthur Akers, Cal Video, anybody who was elected was never president of the board.
Not compliant with the law. Not
So,
as the appointing authority in the May of the appointing. No, you're not.
In August, the May of 2018 had a meeting when you said we were a proper board, constituted and working properly. That's what you said to me, and also to Pam Edwards, that we were a proper board, and we could operate as a board.
It is a lawful board. Lawfully up until January of this year. That's why I'm coming. I don't go to all committee meetings. This committee was not run properly. That's why I'm attending.
I understand. While the reference, May of 2018, you said the Lynn Council On Aging was a proper board. It was. But now you're saying that no, you never existed out there because you weren't acting properly.
You are not lawfully the chairperson. That is correct.
Well, I was lawfully the chairperson in May, but I'm not lawfully the chairperson.
I think I've never given an opinion that you were lawfully the chairperson.
Well, how can you be a regular functioning board if you're not lawful?
I don't know if this was a regularly functioning, properly functioning board prior to January and May of these new appointments.
I understand that you did make that statement, man.
I don't recall. The board exists. It's a lawful board, but it was done, it was acting lawfully. I have great concerns.
I have to go. I'll go back.
I do have to go on the screen development. I have to sign these papers.
I think it requires a vote of the, if it didn't happen, well, it couldn't happen last meeting, we went before, so that would require a vote to authorize you as chairperson to sign.
What were you saying to me a while ago?
I'm saying that my name was on these grants from the federal government previous to which. Now, my name was on here as president of the Lynn Council, which you said was a nullity.
There's no such thing as a president.
A chairperson. My name was on here as chairperson. I don't know why my name was on there. It was a nullity, but it was on there. But now her name is on there. The status of this is that these documents reflect that Bliss is our fiscal agent. I have no contract with Bliss. We have no contract with Bliss that gives them the authority to be our fiscal agent. Why would you ask her to sign a document that says that this is our fiscal agent?
Well, without this, we don't get the development.
You apply for it.
But we can change the status that they're not our fiscal agent. And the money should come to us, we can manage the money. Why has it not been changed?
There's been a vote to do that. The vote is, you want no vote, that is a proper vote. I don't know why you won't do that.
We didn't exist when we have a quorum. How do you vote? You pick and choose what's legal, what's not.
We have a quorum today.
We have a quorum today, we're not voting on
If the motion is that you don't believe that this money should go to Bliss, then that motion is a proper motion.
Let's do that. So we get to that. I don't want you to have assign a document that may be investigated as fraudulent. Okay? I think that's the case. And if so, we want to make sure we vote properly, protect our chair, protect our seniors, and not approve a vote on this. Matter of fact, I'll miss my meeting because I care that much about what's going on.
In order for the chairperson to sign that agreement, the majority of this board has to authorize it.
We'll do that.
I understand fiscal year is ending too quickly. Now you're not going to make it. This would be money that we should turn back to the federal government, if not you.
Well, we have never seen money since I've been here. We have never seen a dime. We have not been able to manage it as an agency. If someone's the fiscal agent of us, we decide where the budget of those funds go. They provide the funds. However, Bliss has taken on the role as manager of the Lynn Council on Aging, which they have publicly stated, which is correct.
We have to know what the funds are going, because community development has their bylaws.
Right.
Like, I know we used to do grant money for St. Louis. They have to know when you submit at the end, whether you bought 5 uniform shirts or this specifically is what every penny goes for. So it asks, community development knows exactly what this money's being spent on.
But we've been out of this stage. That's a lie. That's improper. Should say the word lie.
Well, let's
That's
see.
improper.
Doing this today, you know, because I don't think you guys anything for the senior center, so what is the wish of this committee?
With regard to?
I think that down here, we need a little clarification. So the normal $173,000 has not been sent to Bliss as of yet.
This is not.
This is community development.
This is something.
Oh.
This is the federal government.
This is the CD grant that everybody applies to the city for. Any organization, whether it's Little League, Bliss.
How much is it for?
Churches, Boy Scouts. This one's Stacy, we know what you're talking about. Do you guys remember the amounts on this?
I just think one was Meals on Wheels, is that one of the grants?
One of them was, I think, Wheels on Wheels.
There's a grant for Meals on Wheels, which is a GLIS operated program, nothing to do with the senior center really. And then there's a grant for the senior center, for 2 separate grants.
That's precisely what we're trying to say. That Bliss is operating the middle. We can't sign something off as those organizations.
Council on Aging applied for this grant last year. Council on Aging applied for this grant for next year last month, and I believe we had a representative of the Council on Aging. Because you were in private business applying for the community grant monies, and the monies were conceivably, if rejected, go back into a pool, and you may want to recuse yourself because there could be a conflict. It's just from legal advice. If your vote is to return this money back to community development that could be given to other agencies, I know that there's not in private business, you have made claims that you've been underfunded by community development. But that, from that standpoint, you may want to consider recusing yourself of that vote.
I would like to make a motion.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and do the CBG grants as we've done in the past. I know that because I know that the money is needed, and I know that Stacy is over that money, so I know that it is going to a good cause. That's my motion. And then going forward, we're hoping to work out these issues, as I said, with the letter of memorandum and the lease agreement. There's nobody here at this table more frustrated with the relationship, Arthur. So I have a motion on the floor.
Now, a motion on the floor. My motion is that we.
Wait. Oh, okay, go ahead.
My motion is that we table it, take 2 weeks and get the language correct, so we're not representing that this is a physical agent of the Lynn Council on Aging. We're not a body that gives money to private organizations without any supervision. And so basically what they're saying, this money goes to Meals on Wheels without any supervision from the Lynn Council on Aging. He just said that. So I'm saying we got time. It's not going back tomorrow. It's not going back next month. It's not going back anytime soon. We have plenty of time to get it right. We have never gotten it right because people who work for us are actually agents for Bliss. Okay?
All right, I have something. Is there a deadline on this before the money does go back? Because I don't want anyone to lose any money.
Now, we have 2 motions on the floor, neither of them seconded, just
There's discussion.
Discussion.
So what is the deadline?
I do not know. If they do get it, they can backstep from what they've previously done.
There's no deadline.
Almost 2 months now, I'm signing.
There's no
They were
deadline.
looking for this to be signed in January. That January meeting was canceled because at that time, again, the council lady didn't properly advertise the meeting. So they're looking for it in February, now March, now we're April. So it's been 3 months they've been looking at that.
We got 2 motions on the floor. You're the chairperson. I will announce this.
What's the first motion on the floor?
My motion was to go ahead and do the CBG and fund the programs that they had funded previously.
But that's not a change, that's what's going to happen. I made the presentation for the Council on Aging in front of the CDBG Advisory Committee about 3 weeks ago. And the decision is up to that committee to whether they fully fund. In some cases, they give more.
They want Diana to, as the Council on Aging chairperson, sign the paperwork though, and that's what Arthur's contesting.
This is last year's grant. You applied for one for next year, this is for last year's grant.
Oh, okay. So I was applying for 2020?
Fiscal 2020.
Okay.
There's been no second to my motion.
There's no second to either, Arthur.
No, the next motion's up. So now is there a second to my motion?
Wait a minute, you gotta say the motion again.
My motion is to table signing these documents to get a legal written opinion whether or not this is our fiscal agent, whether or not we as a public entity can give monies away to be managed and owned by a nonprofit. That's what we should do. And we have plenty of time. They don't know the time. Our chair doesn't know the content of what she's signing, and that's unfair to her.
All right.
We need time.
Why don't we, can we get somebody from community development to shut down, to those down, because I don't want anything to happen to this money.
No,
And I know they've been waiting since January.
Well,
And I
wait
know
for it.
when we used to do grants for other things, you have a timeline. I'm not the one responsible for losing the money for council agent.
We're not losing money for the council. My council agent doesn't manage it. It's not our money.
Who benefits?
The seniors.
No, Bliss manages another benefits.
It goes to the seniors though. Stacy specifically writes up.
The senior goes to the Meals on Wheels, right? You know what's the other one goes to?
I don't have.
The senior center.
I mean, why are we voting on something you don't understand?
I understand that I don't have the payment
Why
that
would you-
Stacy.
Why would you put us in further jeopardy? He just said, I might be in conflict, I can go to jail because of my stairs. He knows that part of it, but you don't know. It doesn't make any sense why we're gonna vote on something we don't have, we're not aware of.
So if it's possible, and we can wait another 2 weeks, then you would have an opportunity to read those over. We can have a conversation about it. If that money isn't gonna go anywhere, I think what he's saying is wise. You know, because just 2 weeks.
So are you seconding the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Forward.
Call for
They
vote, please.
clarified, they're doing
I
that. That was on the
don't know if it's
I thought it was forward. Yeah.
Just to let us know that the money
Let us
is
know
not
what's
gonna
going
be.
on first.
Certainly where the board's legitimacy has been questioned for 3 years, I would say that it makes sense that we proceed with caution. I mean, you don't want to put your signature on it, and I understand that it's important to get this money to the seniors. Truly, we're all on the same page on that. But I don't understand why then there has to be a rush through where everything else is being done methodically.
Well then, I'll second Arthur's motion, but what I want to know is then who's going to get together in 2 weeks to do that?
So I will volunteer myself to sit. I read these documents a lot. I do a lot of the CDBG work. I'm happy to sit down and go over it and make sure that everything, you know what I mean, is kosher. And clearly, this is important to you, so I'm going to nominate you to sit through this
Sure,
too.
I'll do it, gladly do.
Stacy has, I think the initial form she filled out with the grant, doesn't she? It's the same format that we have.
Since Stacy has, more point of clarification, since Stacy has applied for this grant, the format of the grant has changed. It's a totally different grant. Stacy doesn't even, the Lynn Council Aging is nowhere on it. The money goes directly to this. So since we brought this up, this grant, the way it sits currently, this year's grant is totally changed, is that correct?
I sat through,
You said it was changed, and that's.
when you and I were there,
So obviously Stacy and the list and our attorney have came to the conclusion that something was awry, and we have to change the presentation, and they did.
Point of order, if there's a motion and a second for a 2-week notice, is Madam Chair, please call the vote.
All those in aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
I still want to listen to.
We can still listen to it.
well, typically you have discussion after the motion's on the floor, and after you finish discussion, then you have a vote.
we voted.
You know, and the other thing, just with our bylaws, I don't know if we're going to now just be updated, but we can have an emergency meeting.
Right.
We need to have an emergency section and we call it, like we can have an emergency meeting that's straight up on these.
So what we should do, proper notice.
Pardon me, with proper notice. Listen, I'm not sneezing at the notice, sir.
What we should do is get a copy of what Stacy submitted this year. Stacy doesn't even call herself representing Lynn Council on Aging. In the current, she doesn't say that. There's no one, when you present it for us, Stacy's title is not for Lynn Council, she's something else. So why are we voting on something that they always knew was wrong when they did it 2 years ago? Nah. So
I hear you, your motion.
Well, I was asked to represent the grant.
We did it. We voted on it,
Yeah.
so we knew it's all happened. So we want to make sure that we don't go down that slippery slope.
No, I think that I fully appreciate all of the angst and energy that this is creating, but I think it's a long time coming.
It's a long time coming, I agree.
And I think it has to be something that we all, hopefully, we will go through the rainbow at some point in time, and we'll all feel good about the fact that everything has been reorganized so that it's effective, and it represents the will of the folks who are voting.
Right.
And also the beneficiaries are the folks who are the seniors.
I'm a big guy, I can take a lot. But when I'm trying to represent us, doesn't know the language, why the mayor makes a decision, I have questions about that. You shouldn't come to our meeting unprepared without the things you need to classify the statuses. He's made several recommendations and rulings on things that he has no documentation for, period. How are you doing?
Right, well, this is Jamie Marsh from
Hi,
Community
Jamie.
Television.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jamie, we have a question. We have this grant here. The question is, we're not sure if it was filled out correctly. This way.
Already said deadline. When's the deadline for us? For them to lose money or not losing money?
This fiscal year, end of the fiscal year.
And the fiscal year is what? June, so that's 2 months, right?
June, 2 months.
Okay, that's all. That's all right. Right. And once they sign a contract, if they don't, once they sign a contract, it's correct that they can wait till next year, but then they don't lose the money. Is that correct?
They'll lose it.
They lose it. They will lose it.
Yeah.
If they don't pick up by June, they lose
It's a
it.
reversion.
Okay, fine. We'll set that. So it's to June. Good with it. Thanks so much, Jim. Sorry about it.
So let's just say, for instance, the wording's wrong, like somebody was saying the wording's wrong and everything. Can this be rewritten or no? We already submitted that.
You can take a look.
Thank you.
So if there's an issue around who receives the money, who's the use of the money, and those are sort of simpler things than changing the content of the grant where, you know, ultimately who's going to benefit from it. So that might not be so difficult.
We want the money spent in the fiscal year.
Right.
We really want this contract buttoned up, signed, and spent. If it's not spent, we have the right to reprogram it for anti-barrels, anti-blood, some other purpose. We'd like to get this thing spent. The fiscal year was purpose.
So we're going to be back to you, I think, with our understanding where it should be. It's not top of us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jamie, here's the
I move to
spelling of your
adjourn.
name for the minutes, please.
Second.